All right. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you again. I'm very excited, as always, to share with you who is coming to the table today for a 10-minute talk. It is someone that I love and adore who has really changed my whole process of becoming a teacher and a teacher leader. And I owe her a debt of gratitude. And so today she's going to come to the stage and talk about teacher empowerment, teacher leadership, and maybe some of the processes and strategies for decision making during a time that is really heavy, such as this. And maybe if you don't know, we've got a huge situation going on in the teaching world. We've got over half of the vacancies for substitute teachers. Like that means like every day that a teacher calls in sick, over half of those folks are not getting filled. So, and 1 in 5 teachers, I believe, has left the profession already. Places like Florida have had, I think it's 67 or 68% increase in vacancies statewide. So it's a major crisis across the nation. Anyway, she's not going to solve that problem. We're not solving that problem, but we are going to talk about teacher empowerment during a time such as these. So let me bring in Carolyn Gramstorff, otherwise known as Miss G. Hello, Miss G. Hey!
Hey! Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just great. Can you hear me?
Okay, good. That was such a kind introduction, Mariah. My
Oh,
God.
well, I love you so much. You're
And look
brilliant.
at like all this data. You're like leading with the data and the facts.
I tried just a little bit.
It's like that girl is data driven. Look at her.
That's because of you. Because of you.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So let me tell folks real quickly that you were my principal at a cute and darling little school that I taught at for many years called North Oakland Community Charter School. And it's a place where just a place of beauty and artfulness and love and community. And so I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for being here, G. And
Thank
I'll
you.
hand it over to you.
You just froze. All right, wait, you still there?
Yes, I
You're
can hear
going to hand it to me. I thought
you.
I was going to hand it to you to kick it off.
Well, I just kicked it off.
All right. Well, we were gonna kind of talk about like the very beginning. Like actually, it was our first week of PD, I think, right? That where we were kicking off, and I was brand new to the school.
Oh wait, are we gonna go? Are we gonna
Oh
go
wait.
in?
Oh
We're
wait,
gonna.
I didn't know. You froze for a second, so I didn't know.
Oh,
What was I supposed to do?
well.
This is so professional. I'm so proud.
We can definitely talk about that story
Okay.
if you want to.
Yeah.
But I thought that you wanted to talk about just teacher empowerment at this time and some of the strategies that you use. But I mean, it's a way sexier conversation to talk about that first day of PD.
Well, I actually think that that story is about teacher
It is.
empowerment,
Yeah,
right? So
it
I
is.
think we should. Are you cool? Are you good?
Yeah,
Like
let's go in.
riffing off of that
Yeah,
because we can make the jump to teacher empowerment pretty easy from that, right?
it is. It's totally in
Yeah,
line. So let's
yeah,
go for it. I'll let you start the
yeah,
story.
yeah. Well, so it was our first week of PD together, and there
Hmm.
was a lot to do. I will also say that the school that we worked at was started by parents. So it definitely had very democratic roots. It was definitely started by parents who had power
Hmm.
and privilege, and obviously used that in order to create a school that they felt great about sending their children to.
Hmm.
I think that Mariah, were you the first Black teacher ever hired
Yes,
at
there
North
was.
Oakland? Yes, you were. And the school also liked to call itself a progressive education school, right? And
Hmm.
so, and what that meant was different to every person, and it was kind of like this unspoken rule. But for some people, they felt really strongly that progressive education meant that you got to call your teacher Mariah, or you got to call your principal Carolyn. And people kept coming up to me, not some people kept coming to me and saying, if we're really going to be a progressive school, we're really going to live the guiding principles of this school, we have to call the teachers by their first name.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had never been called Carolyn, well, by anyone. I mean, still.
Yeah.
But I have a little bit of an old-fashioned streak in me, and I was feeling not so, I was feeling conflicted. And so we decided in that first week that, it was one of the it was the last day, maybe even before, we had promised the community we're going to come out with our decision about this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, I'm not going to make this decision by myself. And so I'm going to get us together in a circle and do what I call the Fist of Five.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
I do remember the whole thing.
So feel free to jump in from your perspective. But basically, yeah. I put the question to the staff, and there were some people who felt very strongly that they wanted to be called by their first name, that for lots of maybe good reasons. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember, Mariah, do you remember, did you go around in the first round and say something, or did we just put it to the vote or the consensus process?
I believe we talked a lot. There was a lot of discussion. So what I recall is that it was tossed out to us before we even came to meeting, right? And so I had to sit and think about this whole thing. And I had the experience of being called by my first name at a predominantly white school in another city that I was at very briefly. And so I knew what it felt like to be, to experience children that had positional power calling me by my first name and their families, and what that did to me as a teacher. So now come to Knox, and I'm in a totally new environment, and I already understand that there's a lot of positional power held by everybody except me, and I am the only Black teacher coming to this school, not the only Black person. But we came together and we talked at length about what it meant, and I think that a lot of people were trying to change my mind that I should be called by my first name. And what ended up happening was me insisting that I was not going to be called by my first name, that children were going to call me Miss Landers.
And I remember saying, whatever we decide, it's not Mr. We're all going to be by our first name. And so, with a Fist of Five, you get to say, five, I strongly endorse this and I will lead this. And a fist is saying, no, I block this and I will, and the group agrees that when that happens, that we honor that. So we've talked about this a little bit since then, and just what an act of, I think it was a really act of courage on your part, Mariah, to really put yourself out there, right? And to, to insist and I think, it was the right call. And I remember being very compelled and moved by your courage and what you did. So I think, and I think, so what does this have to do with teacher empowerment? I don't know.
Well, I mean, certainly, I think that I felt like you allowed for a space where there's actually a decentering of whiteness, because I was able to really put forward, my choice and my thinking. And that would not have been allowed if I were in a space where the leader, thought about, there's one person that doesn't agree. Okay.
I'll just convince her.
I'll just convince her.
Those of you who know Mariah knows that's not going to happen.
I'm not a Taurus.
We're both Tauruses, right? So.
Oh yeah, we're both Taurus. That's why we get along.
I'll convince her.
My sister just joined, and she actually knows right now how stubborn I am. So yeah, I think, but it also set up this culture that allowed for me to express who I am in a safe way. So it actually was the building of a container that allowed it to be safe for me as the only Black body teacher to come in and say, no, this is how I feel about things, Um, and not to say that it was always positive. I mean, it wasn't always a positive, experience, and we'll get to talk about that later on. But
we have a lot of stories to tell about that.
We have so many stories to tell.
That's right.
But
right.
yeah, I really credit you for supporting that cultural change to happen in that moment of, putting trust and faith in a process. And it was a process that kind of reversed the power structure for Knox.
I think that's right. And I think that it's interesting because I think that these processes also have to, like, they demand, leadership from the teachers, right? And bravery, and putting, yourself out there, which you did. And that's why it worked, right? Because we could have used a fist of 5 and you could have been a 1. Yeah. And we could have gone on noting your dissent, right? And I think, so I think all of that is really important when we're thinking about teacher leadership, teacher empowerment, right? Is that you also need to be thinking about putting the power in the hands of the right people and developing people to make choices, right, that are not just about, and I think in this case, like, you made a choice that was about you, but it was really about, what's it going to feel like to someone's mom, right? Black mom walking into school, hearing people call, you Mariah. Yeah. Right. So I think that you were really, and unfortunately, I think you were called on that a bunch, right? To be that voice and to that interpreter for our community. And, I know that, gosh, I keep getting texts. Sorry. I know that couldn't have been easy. Right. And so, like, huge appreciation to you. And, I think that the call for us is, like, to think about, like, when we have Black colleagues, how do we center them? How do we empower them? How do we support them? When do we give them cover? Which I think, like, you told me some stories where I didn't and I needed to. And when do we let, teachers just lead because they know best, right? And when do we let parents do that? Because that's another whole mistaken place where we need to unpack a lot.
Yeah. Paused, but if you can hear me, Carolyn, what is something that you think is supportive for teachers in this moment?
Gosh, I think you and I've talked about, like, gosh, it's just so hard. I think, it's the same stuff, Mariah. I think it's still, leaning into people's strengths, treating them like whole humans, understanding that they're whole humans. I mean, as hard it is, I think it's like we have to encourage people's creativity. We can't, we keep on saying, I don't want to go back to normal. I don't want to go back to normal, but everyone's trying to force this normality. And like, we all know that isn't working, right? Yeah. So I think it's also just providing teachers time and space to say, over the last year, over the last 18 months, over the, whatever, through the pandemic, like, even though you were in crisis mode, crisis teaching, like, I know that there were some beautiful things that happened. How do we lean into that and learn from that? And like, how do we bring that into, like, solving problems that our kids are facing?
Yeah.
And then I think there's just a whole bunch of things that we need to be more holistic about how we take care of people's trauma that we've all experienced, not just because of the pandemic, but because of the racial strife and everything that has been kind of compounding during this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have an answer. I wish I did. I'd probably be making a lot of money.
I know there's so many answers. There's so much wisdom out there, and it's hard to know what to exactly do. And I think we're trying to all figure it out in this collective sense. So I think, it's going to support someone to make some change, hopefully. I'm going to ask you to answer one question, and I'm going to ask you to hold your mic so it doesn't rub up. There you go. And the question,
where is my mic? Which side is it on? I don't know. I'll hold this side. Is that better?
Okay. Yeah, I think that's better. Yeah. It was staticky.
Oh, sorry.
The question is, do your lessons love your students? And I ask you that as a former principal, now coach, admin coach. Um, does your coaching, love your clients, I guess is the question.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's so funny. I'm like a three-trick pony, Mariah. So like I still use the fist of five with my clients. I had this really great experience over the last couple of weeks where I'm coaching and working with an amazing Black leader down in Southern California, and just encouraging her to be. I said, "Do you want to be mild, medium, or spicy in kind of centering anti-racism?" Like, and she was like, "I'm sick of being mild.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sick of being medium." And so I think that that's one way, right? Like I hope so. I hope
Mm-hmm.
so. And I see it as, right now my work is working with a lot of clients to think about strategy, right?
Yeah.
And what they're doing moving forward. And I think all of the things that we know about what works, works for teachers, works for communities, like is really important. Like we have to give voice to the people doing the work. We have to encourage them to engage with the end user, like the kids and the families, right? And
Yeah.
we have to take care of those people who are out there doing the work. So I hope so.
Yeah.
I
I
love
know
my
so.
clients. I love my clients, and I love you.
I love you too. Well, that is our time, Miss G.
Hey, can I show you something real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Look at this. I had this out on my desk while we were talking. Can you see
Oh,
this?
oh,
This is the first year that we all worked
oh
together.
my
Look at,
goodness.
wait, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? There you are.
Oh my
Oh, yeah, you
goodness.
can't see that. You can't see that. And there's me. I have like brown hair and I look like 20 years younger.
I
So
had my locks back then. So that
you
that is the
did.
picture of when I told the whole school we're not going by our first names, we're
Yeah.
going by our last names.
Yeah. And you look like a little kid, dude. You're like 5 years
Yeah.
old there. So
Yeah.
cute. I had like brown hair and no wrinkles.
We still look good. We still look
Yeah, we
okay.
do. We still look good. We still look good. We've become respectable or whatever.
All right. I'll talk to you soon. Good luck. Thank you so
Thank you
much,
for
everyone.
having me.
Take care.